But we're going to begin this conversation about the devastation from the ongoing government shutdown, now on its 32nd day. Yesterday, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to distribute SNAP food aid funding out of its contingency fund. The administration planned to start to pause those benefits for many of the 42 million Americans who receive them today. The threat to aid benefits, combined with thousands of federal workers furloughed, has put immense pressure on food banks and pantries across the country to provide much-needed supplies.
We have people who are financially challenged, people with a whole lot of children, or elderly people, just hungry people, a lot of them. For the last few months, I think our numbers look like they're climbing, and new people, that have never had to come.
We're going to step up, but it's not going to be enough to make up for that $300+ per household for SNAP, for the thousands of dollars per month household lost for the federal workers. We can't make up that kind of difference. We'll help them get by, and we can really surge hard if we can do it for a little bit. But in the end, we have to stop the shutdown.
Last week, Virginia Democratic Representative Don Beyer was among the volunteers distributing food to federal workers impacted by the shutdown at a food bank. Joining us now is Congressman Beyer. Thank you so much for joining us. What is your reaction to Trump last night and the administration saying that they need legal clarification from the courts after just receiving legal clarification that they need to disperse the contingency funds to continue SNAP?
Well, first of all, he said that the court's conflicted. They don't. They both say you should pay them.
Okay, good. I was wondering about that.
Yeah. I was a little maybe hopeful that he didn't just say, hell no, we're not going to do it, that he's looking for a way for the federal government to do that. So that's maybe optimistic. There is $6 billion already allocated, spent in the bank, ready to be used for it. So we don't have to go move money from one place to another.
Right, and he didn't ask for this clarification when it came to using contingency funds to pay military troops.
Exactly right, which is sad. It's that 42 million that you just mentioned is 16 million children. Yeah. And 8 million older Americans, 4 million that are on disability. It's a really hard hit on people that don't have other options.
And people that are already hit hard. When we were prepping for this show this week, I was trying to, I think we're all trying to get someone who was on SNAP, right? And what I found from folks were that they were scared to come on because they were worried about blowback. They were worried that someone from the administration would see their SNAP benefits would be cut, or they would never get their SNAP benefits. They'd be cut off from it completely. And I'm curious what you think as a member of Congress as you watch whether it is SNAP, whether it's the open enrollment for ACA coverage for a lot of people who are experiencing poverty are using that, whether it's Head Start, this kind of fear of folks who have poverty of the state no longer helping them because of the behavior of President Trump, right? They're not making it up. They're scared. These are people who are already hurting in this country, and they're even more scared than they've been before. What does that do to you?
Eugene, I think that's very real. Because you've seen, sadly, this vindictiveness from Trump and the administration. Like they fire or put 2 attorneys out of justice on suspension because they mentioned a riot on January 6th. There's payback in so many different ways if you disagree with the president. You had the little clip of my putting food in those cars. So we did that. That was Friday a week ago, 350 cars. It lined up at 7:30 in the morning for a thing that didn't open until 11. What was interesting was nobody got out of their cars.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to be on camera.
Yeah.
They were happy to have the food in their car, but they didn't want to be on TV.
Yeah, because we've made it embarrassing for folks to get things from the federal government when the federal government probably should be making sure that people can eat or give them more money in minimum wage so that they can feed themselves and their family.
Congressman, we were talking in the 7 o'clock hour with Michael, our congressional reporter, about the potential of there being cracks. Michael Schnell, the potential cracks in the resolve of Democrats, but also Republicans in terms of ending this shutdown. You're an actual member of Congress sitting here on this set. Are there cracks? Are the little talks that have been going on from the very beginning, are they picking up in urgency now that we are at November 1st when the Obamacare folks are getting the open enrollment is here and folks are finding out what their health care is going to cost, and also with this SNAP emergency?
Boy, that's a complicated question. So number one, on the House side, I think there are relatively few or very few conversations because the House Republicans have not been in town for 5 weeks.
Yeah, since mid-September.
And they're gone again next week. I'm more optimistic about this talks happening on the Senate side. I know Mark Warner, Tim Kaine, they're talking to their Republican colleagues, which gives me some hope.
Your fellow Virginians.
Yeah, and the senators are here, at least. What I'm also hearing, though, Jonathan, is that people are so afraid of the 30% plus increase in their Affordable Care Act premiums, which, by the way, will roll over to all the other health care things that you have, that so far, at least, they're saying stick with the plan. You know, don't back off until the Republicans will come to the table on the health care premiums. And you do see cracks there. The most obvious one is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Josh Hawley and another other ones that says, yes, we need to fix the Affordable Care Act, the subsidy problem.
And it's not just SNAP that's going to be impacted on this deadline. There are other deadlines, including Head Start, and starting today as well. More than 65,000 children are going to be at risk of losing access to Head Start. When you are talking to your constituents, what are you hearing in terms of the service, the public good that they are most worried about losing access to right now?
Well, before midnight last night, it was overwhelmingly the subsidies for health care. Today it's going to shift on SNAP benefits. And once again, the sad part, as with Head Start, it affects those people that are most vulnerable, that have the least other resources. Right. They don't have savings.
Right.
Yeah. Really quickly, you're declining a paycheck during this shutdown. How are you? We're 32 days into this. Yeah. When you see Mike Johnson continuing to cancel votes and not having you guys here and forcing Democrats to keep voting no on this bill, how are you and your colleagues thinking about that?
Very frustrated.
Yeah.
You know, he seems to only take direction from Donald Trump. I mean, I so wish that we were back, even in a shutdown. My team, they all come in 5 days a week. You know, if we were here, we could be talking. If we were here, we could be doing all the other stuff that we should be doing. So when we do come back, we're going to be months behind in terms of the legislation the government needs.
Yeah.
Congressman Beyer, thank you so much for taking time out of your not so busy week. We're now joined by Meg Kimmel, President and CEO of the Maryland Food Bank. Hey, Meg, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's just set the table for the conversation. What are you hearing firsthand from the people that you have dedicated your career to servicing?
Yes, thanks for having us on this morning. A couple of things I'll share right at the top. Some of the information you shared earlier was really on point. We know that people are stressed and nervous about the potential loss of SNAP benefits. We have never seen an interruption in the program since it was created in the 1960s. So folks are calling our front desk, asking, what do I do? How do I find resources, et cetera? Lots of questions coming our way. 300% uptick in calls to our front desk this past week. And also our food pantry partners. So we work with a network of about 800 community-based organizations. Those might be smaller local food banks or food pantries. They might be faith-based organizations, schools. And that network is going to be really stressed and strained, trying to do as much as we can together to close the gap created by any kind of interruption in SNAP benefits.
Meg, one of the things that this is a crisis right now with SNAP, but SNAP has been in crisis or been under attack for a long time. When you look at President Trump's first term, every budget that he proposed had cuts to SNAP. You look at this new bill, that the big beautiful law now, you have Republicans cutting at least $300 billion over the next 9 years from SNAP. As someone who deals with this every single day, how shaky is the foundation of SNAP, and how much of a concern do you have that moving forward, the crisis is going to be even bigger than folks just waking up one day and not having money on their card? It's going to be them not getting money at all.
That's exactly where we are keeping our focus. And I think that's a really important question. We knew that since the passage of HB1 that there are permanent contractions and changes coming to the SNAP program. $186 billion will be cut out of that program nationwide. In the state of Maryland, that could impact 360,000 people, meaning they would lose SNAP benefits permanently.